So we have to begin the multiplication section of our integer work with the foundation. What does it even mean to multiply? Now, I'm going to guess that if you actually thought through this as the slide suggested, that you might have thought about repeated addition. Like 4 times 3 means 4 added 3 times, 4 plus 4 plus 4. Or sometimes the common way of thinking is groups of, 4 groups of 3. And those are all really, really good, but incomplete. I want to add to your understanding of what it means to multiply in the following way. Take a look at this screen, please. Suppose we wanted to think about 3 times 2. So 3 times 2. The phrase I'd like you to consider is this: copies of. 3 is the number of copies of the next quantity, 2. 3 copies of 2. Here's what I mean. I'm going to use Hershey bars as my example here. 3 copies of 2. Do you see that there's 2 Hershey bars? There's 1 copy of 2. There's 2 copies of 2. And then there's 3 copies of 2. And if you copy 2 Hershey bars 3 times, 3 times 2, 3 copies of 2, you have, of course, 6 Hershey bars. Now, why am I saying this copies of thing instead of repeated addition, instead of groups of? The reasoning is because when we get to other kinds of numbers, like rational numbers, fractions, when we get to integers, this copies of way of thinking is more robust. It's hard to think about repeated addition in, say, this case. 1/4 times 6. So when we get to fractions, it's a little bit harder to think about. Let's take 1/4 and add it 6 times, or let's take 1/4 groups of 6. But copies of works pretty well. Here's what I mean. There's 6 Hershey bars. If you count each one of these individuals, there's 6 Hersheys. Now I just want 1/4 of a copy. I don't want a full 6. I want 1/4 of a copy of the 6. And so, hope you can see this, but we're now going to take the 6 and cut it into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. I hope you can see here with those blue lines. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So each one of those sections is a 1/4. So 1/4 of a copy would be this, this, and this. Now because this slices right down the middle, if I took this piece and combined it with this piece, that would produce 1 full Hershey bar section, plus another half. So 1/4 of a copy is this, say this top section here, which would be 1.5. Copies of. Now, I always say this, if you are ever stood in front of a copy machine, and especially if you're in a hurry, maybe the copy machine jammed in the middle of your job. And as you opened the doors and pulled out the trays and tried to unjam the jam, you might have found a piece of paper that didn't quite finish the copying process. And you have a piece of paper that has 1/4 of a copy on it. And so likewise, we can have 1/4 of a copy. Now, you may still be wondering why the repeated addition doesn't work. It actually does work okay in this case, but watch this one. What if we had 3/4 times a half? See, with 3 times 2, you would say add 3 2 times. With 1/4 times 6, you could say add 1/4 6 times. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, that'd be 1. Plus 1/4 plus 1/4, that'd be 1.5. That works okay too. But watch this. 3/4 times 1/2. How do you add 3/4 a half of a time? Like, you're adding 3/4, and then you stop a half a time. It doesn't work anymore. But copies of does. Let me show you. Can you see my candy bar? We're going to call that 1 candy bar, but we don't have 1 candy bar in this case. We have 3/4 of a candy bar. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm taking 3/4 of a copy of 1/2. I have a half of a candy bar. So let me back up and do that again. I don't have a full candy bar. I have a half of a candy bar. But now I want 3/4 of a copy of that 1/2. So I'm going to take that 1/2 and split it up into 4. Did you see those little lines? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces now. Each one of those pieces is 1/4. I want 3/4 of a copy of that 1/2. So I want 1, 2, 3/4 of a copy. This is what I want right in here. 3/4 of a copy of 1/2. See, the thinking is good. Now, I'm going to pause here for a minute and just say that we're going to encounter an entire unit on fractions. I just needed to plant this seed now so that you have this way of thinking about copies of, and you'll see how it plays out in our integer work here in a minute, but 3/4 of a copy of 1/2. Now remember, the 1/2 was originally a half of a whole candy bar. And now I want 3/4 of a copy of that half of a whole candy bar, and that represents 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you looked at the other half, there'd be 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'd have 1, 2, 3 sections of the 8 pieces. We'd have 3/8. So 3/4 of a copy of 1/2 is 3/8 if you think of how that works through. So copies of is how I'm going to encourage you to be thinking. You're going to hear me saying it a lot in the next chunk of work that we're going to do with integers, multiplying integer numbers. Check it out.